He did it with leg kicks. Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor 2. Now, what really happened in this fight? A stunning turn of events where Dustin Poirier technically tore down Conor McGregor using leg kicks as his main weapon, ultimately making Conor look quote-unquote not the same anymore. There were so many calf kicks landed from Dustin Poirier. I mean, the first strike that actually landed the entire fight was an inside leg kick that threw off the left hand of Conor McGregor. Conor's left hand looked really smooth there, very fluid. But as the leg kicks started adding up, Conor's movements became limited and he became way more stiff. I mean, look at his stance here and then look at his stance in the second round. A giant difference to the way he's holding his legs. Very narrow in the second round, whereas in the first round, he was still pretty wide with his stance, although he took a little bit more of a traditional boxing stance, pressuring Dustin Poirier. In fact, Conor barely addressed the leg kicks and only really looked to reach down for the leg, right? That was his main defense to stop the leg kicks from landing on him. And he's very, very lucky that Dustin Poirier is not a head kicker. If he fought someone who can combine leg kicks with head kicks, Conor may have gotten KO'd in this fight very early. And not only was Poirier attacking from a range, he was countering Conor's offense with leg kicks, which throws off his balance and ultimately throws off his targeting, throws off his precision. He's not able to target his punches as effectively when his lead leg, which is so far out there because of his wide stance, gets attacked before his left hand is able to come out there. That's why a lot of his left hands were missing. And that is why you start to see him stiff leg a lot of his left hands. His lead leg became so stiff when he was throwing it, he fell into the cage at one point. Another point, he had to take the weight off his lead leg when he threw the left hand, so he immediately backed up after he threw it, which is something we never see from Conor McGregor. It's all credit to Dustin Poirier's leg kicks. And we start to see some very stiff combinations, very unusual to ever see Conor ever throw. And a bigger thing was, look at Conor's movement to get away from Dustin Poirier. Dustin came in there with that shift combination that on paper should be very ill-advised to throw such a good counter puncher like Conor McGregor. Big left hand, switches stances forward across great distances to throw a big right hand. Conor did not look to counter, did not look to slip. He put all defenses up to block and he moved away, switching stances backwards. We have never seen Conor do that ever in his entire career. He could not put the weight on his lead leg. That is ultimately why he had to do this. And he also admitted it after the fight. He complained about the damage to his calf. So it was a clear victory. I know he wants to say that he was inactive, he wasn't the same, he was rusty, all that stuff. That may be a little bit true, but do not get mistaken. This Conor McGregor that we saw was not that far off from any version of Conor we've ever seen. And it was all credit to Dustin Poirier. He legit beat Conor McGregor, took his revenge, and not only beat him, knocked him out. Conor was out for a second when he took a bunch of those barrages, and we have to also talk about that. The damage to the leg did not allow Conor to move away. Even if he tried, he would be way too slow because of the damage to his lead leg to get away from Dustin Poirier's barrage. It's too powerful, there's too many shots, too much tenacity for Conor to do anything in this position while compromised. But when we look at other things in this fight, so Dustin Poirier definitely respected Conor's power. For instance, 4 seconds into the fight, when Conor threw the jab, Dustin Poirier threw the left hand, Dustin immediately ducked for cover and moved out entirely. He already had all the respect for that left hand. He wanted to get completely away from it. This respect carried on up until he actually got caught. Right, he was pulling back on that left hand like his life depended on it. And as soon as he took it to the chin and he knew he can withstand it, that's when he lost a bit of that respect for Conor McGregor's left hand. He started to be more comfortable in the fight that he knew now he could take that punch. The biggest doubt that can happen to a fighter who got knocked out by the guy they're standing in front of is if they can take that same punch. The bigger Dustin Poirier, the now 155er Dustin Poirier, can absolutely take Conor McGregor's best shot. It probably puts it in concrete, Conor is definitely not the hardest puncher in this division, evident by this. But what we started to see was Poirier was going a lot to that check right hook. He was looking to pull on that left hand and counter with the check right hook, and he was actually very smooth on pulling on the punch in time, getting the right angle for his counter to land. It's actually something Nate Diaz landed a few times on Conor McGregor as well, and they are the same thing, both southpaw fighters. It opens up that check right hook. Conor actually took a very similar thing as well. Conor made a very good adjustment to this in the first round, before his leg got compromised, and then he couldn't even go to this that much. When he threw the left hand, he naturally gets his head inside of a check right hook, so he just leaps further into that angle for the lead right uppercut, and one time rocked Dustin Poirier pretty badly. It became a main combination for Conor to go to because it was the most successful thing he was landing in the fight. This ultimately gets him away from the angle of the right hook as he greatly leaps to the opposite side. And there was another moment where actually Poirier in the first round went to that shift combination, big left hand switches stances forward, throws a big right hand, and Conor was looking to counter it. 100% what threw off Conor's quick trigger to counter this combination was the fact that Dustin Poirier took him down earlier. Dustin Poirier winged out that big left hand, switched stances forward, and actually took down Conor McGregor as Conor looked to counter immediately. He had that fast trigger to counter Dustin Poirier. Poirier went under it and eventually just got him to the ground. Conor did not expect this to come at him and ultimately put a bit of hesitation to Conor's trigger finger. And when we look at the big left that Conor landed on Poirier in the first round, Conor actually set up that first round left hand very well. So he feinted forward, saw Dustin's reaction was to parry the jab with his left hand, but what Poirier did not see was the fact that Conor stuck that landing even though he pulled his hand back. He moved forward and he stayed there in front of Dustin Poirier, actually getting closer to him. Poirier never adjusted to the footwork, he only had a reaction to the punch. So Conor steps in even further off that angle, goes to deflect that left hand that's looking to parry, as Dustin Poirier's focus is on that hand, and Conor comes in right behind it with a big left cross that shakes up Poirier a little bit. And then toward the ending sequence, before the crazy barrage from Dustin Poirier, not really much to talk about that necessarily. It was just a lot of punches all around the place. Conor just could not defend all of it, especially with 4-ounce gloves. So Conor steps forward to go for a big left straight to the body, but before he's able to land it at all, Dustin Poirier counters him with another leg kick, throwing the angle of the punch off, causing Conor to greatly overextend. This puts him in a very awkward stance, awkward position, and he comes with a quite sloppy right uppercut that comes straight from the ground. No linear range at all, and Dustin counters him with a big check right hook in the meantime and moves away from the other big looping left overhand from Conor McGregor. Ultimately, Dustin knew he was hurt because whenever you see Conor go down to like fake for a takedown or even go for a takedown, that's a big tell that he's hurt. And Dustin Poirier eventually just finishes him off. Amazing performance, one of the greatest performances of his entire career. Took revenge, and now he's one of the top dogs of the lightweight division. It's him, Charles Oliveira, and Michael Chandler right now. Those are the top guys, nearly even right there. I would say Oliveira and Dustin Poirier are the guys that should fight for the undisputed title. Whereas Michael Chandler, I think he deserves one more fight before he can get a crack at it, because Dan Hooker's a little bit lower in the rankings, so his win over Hooker isn't as credible as Oliveira's win over Ferguson and Dustin's win over Conor McGregor. So let's do it. Dustin Poirier versus Charles Oliveira. That's the fight everybody needs to see now for the vacant belt. And no, I don't think Conor McGregor looked that rusty, just maybe a little bit with some of his timing, but early on in the fight, he looked just like Conor McGregor with just a little bit of an on-purpose adaptation to specifically fight a southpaw Dustin Poirier. And this may also prove that Dustin Poirier may be one of, if not the best boxer in the UFC right now, able to deal with a lot of the boxing exchanges with Conor McGregor, as well as outboxing Max Holloway, who a lot of people now are thinking is the best boxer in the UFC. And we all still have to see what happens with Khabib, but I don't think he's going to return. I'm gonna have another quick breakdown coming up, and then I'm gonna go into my reaction results video that's gonna come out afterward, and then a podcast for next week to really sum up everything that we just witnessed tonight. So I hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown. If you did, make sure to thumbs up, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.